My guests are Kelly and Michelle. They are with a wonderful nonprofit organization called Fences for Fido that does so much good work for animals and their humans. So let's just get started from the very beginning in case someone's never heard of you. Explain what Fences for Fido is.
Take it away, Kelly.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, let's see. Fences. Oh, it's so much. Well, Fences for Fido, we began in 2009, and we had a really straightforward mission, and that was to build free fences for families with outdoor dogs that primarily these dogs are restrained by chains or tethers.
And that's no way for a dog to live.
It isn't. And typically families had so much guilt and frustration and sadness around that. And today, fast forward 15 years later, we are, it's a one-of-a-kind organization in the Pacific Northwest, and we're filling a gap in our dog-loving community, and we're celebrating 15 years.
That's fantastic.
Of providing free fences, warm dog houses, spay neuter services to more than 3,600 chained dogs throughout the Pacific Northwest, and including on the Warm Springs Reservation.
Say that number again. You've helped 3,600 dogs.
3,600.
Totally changed their lives, because this is totally life-changing for a dog.
Changed their lives and the families' lives, which is as important. And we see that on every single build. Michelle, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, we saw that so dramatically on our very first build.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. So you go to first of all, how do you find your clients? How do you find the dogs and their humans that are in need?
Well, back in the day, nobody had ever even heard of this concept, and people honestly thought it was a little bit, outrageous. But people would tell us about chained up dogs, and we would go knock on the doors, and we would just form a relationship with the family, find out what their situation was, offer them a free fence. And the very first time we did that, Kelly was the one who knocked on the door. It was for a dog named Chopper in Portland, and he had been chained for quite a while. He was near a busy park, so a lot of people saw him and worried about him and knew that he needed a better life. And his human, Keith, for one, just thought that there really wasn't any way that we could actually build a fence. He kind of doubted that, but then he was willing to give it a try. And he wasn't even sure that anything was terribly wrong with Chopper's life. And he let us know in the kindest, sweetest way. He became a lifelong friend. He couldn't believe the change in Chopper's life and in his relationship with Chopper and the time they would spend together as soon as Chopper was off that chain.
That is just so wonderful. And you've talked about the moment that dog becomes untethered, maybe for the first time, and gets to run free in its new enclosure, thanks to Fences for Fido, they typically do something you call zoomies.
Yes. And it's honestly, I think it's addictive. I tell people that once you see a dog doing zoomies, you will want to come back and do this every weekend. Because, all of us who love dogs, and I know you do too, Mitch, a dog's joy is just so pure and so contagious.
Yeah. And then sometimes they'll come by, the dog will, it's almost as though they're personally thanking each person. Yeah. And it is hard. Sometimes we do have to force ourselves to leave the fenced enclosure. We were like, okay, well, maybe it's time that we, load up our materials and away we go.
And speaking of building the fences, Kelly, it's all volunteers that do the work. Then the literal heavy lifting, right?
It's all volunteer. So we are building about 10 fences a month. Yeah, 10 fences a month. We have about more than 100 volunteers out there throughout the year. And so on any given weekend, we are far-flung throughout Oregon and up into Washington State or on the Warm Springs Reservation. And going back to a chained dog, I think when we started, we didn't really understand the struggles that families are experiencing. And a chained dog is a reflection of the hardships of a family, and chaining is rarely a first choice. It's a last resort, and we're grateful that families feel safe enough to reach out to us without judgment, and that we're able to offer compassionate consistency to them with free solutions.
Well, how do you make it happen? How do you make it happen financially, Michelle? Where does the money come from? How do you build these fences?
Yes, we have fantastic donors. I mean, people love dogs in the Northwest. We are known to be dog lovers.
Mhm.
And so we are entirely funded by donations and grant funding. And we have always just been fortunate to have enough people who see there's something so tangible about this work because people can see that in a couple of hours on a Saturday morning, this dog goes from these sad situations to zooming and running around their own fenced yard and playing with their new toys and jumping into their soft bedding in their new insulated doghouse. People can see what a difference it makes. And so that's why I think people are willing to support it.
And I want to make sure everyone heard that. In addition to the fence, you also provide an insulated doghouse for the pup.
And
Right.
spay and neuter, and
And
also
spay and neuter.
urgent veterinary care. We often find families are struggling enough that they've never been able to afford, vet care. So
Because it's
sometimes,
not cheap. I mean, anybody can attest to that. It's expensive.
It is
and it's
not.
more expensive all the time, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sometimes they're geographically isolated. There is no vet clinic nearby.
Mm. Kelly, can you talk about what Fences for Fido did back in 2014 with the passage of the first anti-tethering law here in the state of Oregon?
Yeah, that was something, well, we knew at the heart of our organization, we are a fence building organization, but we also recognized that just plugging holes wasn't enough. And we needed, there was like other components to this. And that was putting forward statewide legislation that was a minimum standard on on how long and the conditions in which a dog could be chained. And so in doing so, what was so great is that then law enforcement or our animal control partners they were able to use that as a tool. And so when they would approach families, they would say, hey, I'm not sure if you know, this is the new law in Oregon, but here's an organization that can help you become in compliance. And so we wanted to make sure that whatever was passed in Oregon wasn't too much of a hardship, that families could meet this standard. And so in Oregon, you can only chain your dog or tether your dog 10 hours in a 24-hour period. And there are some other parameters set around that as well to safeguard the conditions in which a dog is chained so they can't get wrapped and tangled. And they always have access to their doghouse, and they always have access to food and water.
You know, for so many people like me whose dogs are truly a part of their family, it's hard to even imagine having your dog chained up outside. But I know that is the reality for some dogs, way too many dogs.
And sometimes it is because a landlord will not allow their dog inside, which is really sad. And the families, they are bonded and they are this is what they can afford. And this is, and they just don't have the resources to build a fence. And we can come in and it shocks them. I'll tell a family we'll be there at 9 o'clock and we'll be done by 11. And they're like, oh my God. So in 2 hours, right? The beauty of Fences for Fido is lives change, the dogs, the families, and often ours too, right? That is, and sometimes it's hard to convey the feelings of gratitude, but we were at a build on Mother's Day a couple years ago, and a little girl came up to us and she just whispered in the softest voice, we built a fence for Luna, her dog, and her goat friend, S'more. They were both chained. And she just whispered, thank you for being here. And I'm telling you, it just brought me to tears. And it was just a reminder of the.
I tear up every time I watch your videos on your website because I really want to know what you do. But those videos, when you see the dog for the first time doing its zoomies, I break down every single time. Every single time. Now, none of this happens for Fences for Fido without money. And one way you can contribute is a big gala happening in August, and I am super honored to be a small part of it. I'm going to serve as MC and move things along. Tell me about the gala.
Well, it's in Lake Oswego, and it's just a beautiful location. And this one will be special because we're celebrating our 15th anniversary. So we're really reliving all of the history, the accomplishments, the sort of, dog loving community that we've created that we call Love in Action. And so it's going to be a bigger celebration even than our normal annual gala, but we've got just fantastic food and wine and a signature cocktail and this fabulous MC who everyone will want to see and meet.
Oh, when
And-
does he show up? I
It's
can't
like,
wait
well,
to meet him.
I know you're gonna make our groovy gala. It's August 18th. It's 70s theme. And then after the program, there's a 30-minute 70s disco dance party in the gazebo as the sun sets. So again, Ms. Michelle said we'll have a signature cocktail, and it goes back to our first love chopper. It's the golden chopper. It's a lemon kind of drop martini. And I think we'll have one of the best 70s playlists out there on Spotify. So come to our gala.
Where can folks buy tickets, Kelly?
fencesforfido.org on our website and also on Facebook.
And that's also where you can sign up to be a volunteer and help build these fences and change lives for dogs and their humans.
Absolutely.
It's so easy to do. Yeah, no special skills, no special equipment. We provide all the equipment, and all you need to do is have a couple of hours on a Saturday morning and love dogs.
From the absolute bottom of my heart, thank you to both of you and to your entire organization for everything you do. And I can't wait to see you at the gala.
We're
We
looking forward
can't
to it.
either.